Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Raj Persaud. I'm a consultant doctor and psychiatrist based in Harley Street in private practice psychiatry in London, in the United Kingdom. I want to talk a little bit today about something we've discussed a little bit before, which is the amazing and infamous trial of Erin Patterson, the woman who notoriously has been described as the mushroom murderer. I've only made one video about this case, this remarkable case, because the trial ended before she was sentenced, and it was pretty clear that the legal system, despite the fact this had been a case that had been grinding along in the courtroom for a very long time, was completely befuddled about the idea of a possible motive. I have criticized the legal system before in my various videos because my experience both acting as an expert witness, psychiatrist, in courtrooms both for the defense and the prosecution has led me to be extremely concerned about how the legal system works and about its inability very often to find the correct guilty person, and also its inability to correctly get a sense of motive in crimes. You don't need motive in order to find someone guilty or find someone not guilty, but it's kind of weird if you really understand the case, if at the end of a case, like in the Erin Patterson situation, everyone's still in the courtroom going around scratching their heads going, we have no idea why she did it. There's something very weird about that, in my opinion, as a psychiatrist, because I don't think it's that difficult to piece together motivation. I'm prompted to make another video because the woman has now been sentenced to an extremely long time in prison. And Ian Wilkinson, the one survivor of the four people that are invited round for the fatal meal, where three of the guests died as a result of her poisoning them, but he survived miraculously. He, on the courtroom steps, as it were, has given a statement where he thanked all the different services involved and expressed gratitude for them doing a good job. I'm afraid to say, though I understand the man why he did what he did, and no one would want to go through what he went through, and one is sympathetic to him, I have to say that I wonder whether he's right. Did the services do that good a job? And that is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. Because the bombshell revelation is that Simon Patterson, the husband, firmly believed, it looks like, that he had been, there was an attempt to poison him by Erin Patterson on at least, maybe three separate occasions before the fateful meal. And he was so worried about what she was up to that he told her he wasn't coming round for the meal the evening before. So the kind of elephant in the room question, and I'm nervous about discussing it because I appreciate a lot of people are going to be very offended by this point, but I feel honor bound as a psychiatrist to state the fact there's something very strange going on here. And why is it the legal system and the police and the way it's been reported has not lifted this rock up? Which is, it's very strange that a man who's become convinced that he's being poisoned, or there's an attempt to poison him and kill him, to the extent that he changed some legal documents that moved her power, I think it's of attorney or something, away from her. He actually was motivated enough and disturbed by her possible motive to end his life that he changed some legal documents. Why did he not warn his parents and the other people he was very close to who were going for that meal the next day? I find it odd, for example, that the one survivor, Ian Wilkinson, has not commented on something, which is why the four people who went to the fateful meal didn't inquire more of Simon why he wasn't going. I find that a bit odd, that there doesn't seem to be an in-depth conversation before this fateful meal. The ex-husband, who's kind of crucial to the whole pretense that she set up, Erin, as to why she was having the meal, which is important information to tell the children, why there wasn't more of a conversation between the four who went and the one who didn't as to why the one who didn't wasn't going. I would have thought that would be kind of an obvious thing to do. Why are you not going, Simon? Well, I'm afraid I think she tried to poison and kill me a few times. It's a bit strange. She doesn't normally invite people around for a meal. It's never ever invited you around for a meal, so I'd be careful if I were you. Seems a kind of obvious conversation to have. it doesn't look as though they had that conversation. So the another strange thing is not only why did Simon not warn them more, but why were they not more curious of Simon as to why he wasn't going around? We come back to a point. Maybe Erin had some kind of power over them. What was that power? Why were they all supplicant to her and submissive? What was it? And I understand now from stuff on the internet that she had a lot of money. Were they all in the thrall of the money? Is that too disturbing a point to be made? And would that muddy the waters in this case? I'm not saying the woman's innocent. She's clearly not innocent. What I am saying is there's a lot more going on in this case than has been reported from a psychological standpoint. Now, there is some argument that maybe he did try to warn them, and maybe he did tell them that about what was going on, but that bit is very sketchy in the way this has been reported. And it's a bit weird if he did warn them, and again, it's kind of like strange. It doesn't look as though he tried to warn them very much at best, which is a bit weird, given that he didn't come round because he was nervous that she might be trying to poison him. He was nervous to that extent, it seems, from what's been reported. Again, you can correct me in the comments below, that he didn't turn up, and yet the other four did. I mean, so there's a real question as to, was he complacent at some level? Or did he warn them and they still were hell-bent on turning up for some reason, which I'll discuss that in a moment. The other thing that's very strange is that apparently he had a conversation with his own doctor, and the doctor was worried that maybe his ex-wife was trying to poison him. Speaking as a doctor, I happen to know that we have a medical legal obligation, if we think someone's life's in danger, to alert the police. I find it, again, very odd. I may have got this completely wrong. I don't want to cast aspersions on the doctor. I'm willing to be corrected. But so far, just expressing my view from the way this has been reported, that is also very strange. Because apparently this doctor, so it's been reported, I could have got this wrong, was worried that Simon Patterson was being poisoned possibly by his ex-wife. Why did the doctor not report? Or maybe he did, I don't know. It doesn't seem to have been reported in the press that happened. So there's something very strange going on with the fact that after the fateful meal occurred, Simon Patterson apparently went around telling people much more clearly about his suspicions. Obviously now, several people were seriously ill in hospital. But again, I still come back to the question. He didn't go to the meal. He was that worried. Why did the other four go? There seems to be a very odd interruption in knowledge between him and these other four. Did he warn them a lot and they still went for some reason? Or if he didn't warn them, is there not a sense in which at the very least maybe he's being very naive about what possibly could happen? Now, one argument is he thought, okay, I could be in danger. I don't see why the other four people going would be in danger. But that's very odd and slightly naive position, which is that if he was afraid that if he turned up she was going to poison him, how did he think she was going to poison him and the other four wouldn't be in some kind of danger? Most people would think to themselves, I think, maybe as a psychiatrist it's difficult for me to figure out what most ordinary people or lay people would think about this. If he was worried that he was at risk, why is it not possible the other four could be collateral damage in that she would be targeting him but was quite willing to polish off the others? The other thing that is very strange is that if he thought this woman is out to get me or out to kill me, we're discussing very, very extreme behavior here, homicidal behavior. His children were being looked after, as far as I could tell, and continue to be looked after. And so they were co-parenting, as far as I can tell from the reporting. I find that very weird, that you're convinced this woman is trying to kill you, and you don't think to yourself, this is a dangerous woman, and my children are being parented by her alone and vulnerable. I find that very, very odd. Again, please correct me if I've got this all wrong in terms of my understanding of what happened. There's a question about why he didn't warn the others and what was going on in his head, which has not really been explored, maybe for various reasons. The other thing that's very, very odd is why did the prosecution drop the attempt. There's some legal argument as to why they didn't bring this up and why they haven't continued to bring it up. There's something very weird about that, given it seems pretty opposite to the case. At least it sounds like, maybe there were fewer or maybe more, I may have gotten that wrong, three other attempts to kill someone by poisoning never turned up in the actual trial of Erin Patterson. There's something a bit odd about that, and you can see why that might stoke conspiracy theories, that there's some kind of cover-up going on here. So the other thing that a psychiatrist is aware of, and maybe the lay public are not, is if someone's trying to kill someone and they make an attempt and it doesn't succeed, but they don't get arrested, the police don't turn up and knock on your door, what tends to happen is you become more convinced you're going to get away with it. So you have another go, and then another go. And each time, because Simon Patterson is not reporting this woman to the police never turn up and knock on her door. What do you think is going on in a potential homicidal person's head if they make attempt after attempt and no one turns up to question? What you're doing is you're reinforcing the behavior. You're almost encouraging it. You're making her believe if she keeps going down this route, she could get away with it. So the elephant in the room is why these people turned up, even if they were warned. What's going on here, and why Simon Patterson allowed these four people he was very close to, close relatives, to turn up. One elephant in the room is that it seems from the debate on the internet, and again, apologies if I've got this wrong, that Erin Patterson had a lot of money. Is it possible there was a power dynamic between her and all the people around her? They're all falling over themselves not to get on the wrong side of her because of the money. And they didn't want to get on the wrong side of her in case money got pulled away from them. Did she make loans? Were they all currying favor because she had money? And was there a power dynamic, which meant that she was able to get away with a lot of things, including maybe Simon not wanting to accuse her because there was something about access to the money that was important. Now, if that is the case, I'm not saying it's the case, it's a speculation, it seems to me very interesting that never turned up in the court case, because that's a blindingly obvious motivation to explain the pattern of behavior, why Simon persisted in not reporting her to the police, and also why, even though he didn't go, he didn't warn the others enough, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to cast aspersions on the poor chap, he's been through a lot, and also why the other four, if they were aware, because they don't seem to have been, but if they were aware of his anxieties over possible poisoning, why they still went to this fateful meal. So we come back to a fundamental point, which is sometimes people are so keen when someone is found guilty to believe the story has been explained, they don't probe any further. There are several mysteries in this case, despite all the examination that's occurred, where people are, I feel, blind to certain mysterious things that are going on in the case that remain unresolved. I want to emphasize, in all my speculation, I am not saying that I can speak with any assertiveness about what actually happened. Instead, what I'm saying is there are several enigmas and mysteries about this case that remain unresolved. And I find it odd that a court system, top lawyers, I mean, for example, I'm not aware of a psychiatrist being called in, I could have got that wrong, please correct me, into this court case at all to examine Erin Patterson and to produce some kind of psychological analysis of what was going on here. So I find all of that very mysterious. All I'm saying is that the reporting seems to be not seeing some mysteries at the heart of this case, and I don't know why that is not being properly explored. But ultimately, this issue of trying to understand motivation is extremely important. And ultimately, what I'm trying to say is I think the Erin Patterson case proves my point that the legal system is just terrible at actually developing any kind of psychological understanding of why people do what they do. Thank you.